Well, good afternoon and welcome everybody to the Wednesday Lunchtime Drive Through for Wednesday, August 18th, 2021. I'm your host, Damon King, a certified financial planner professional and wealth management advisor with ChappelWood Financial Services. And I also serve as the lead instructor for ChappelWood University, which is our educational. And so today I want to discuss with you a topic, and before no, I'm just gonna keep on going here. But because I was going to close out something, but I decided, you know what, I'm just going to leave it alone. I want to discuss with you some scams, some new online scams. You probably get tired of hearing about this. You know that these things are out there, but it seems that the criminals that would separate us from our money are never at rest. They are always looking for ways to separate you more from your money. And so I've got some scams today that I want to share with you. Some of these you may have already heard of before. Some of these are pretty unique. And, I just wanted to make sure that you are aware of them and bring them to your attention. But I'm not just going to tell you what's crummy in the world. I'm going to share with you some steps that you can take to protect yourself. Some you have probably already done. Others, maybe you haven't. So let's go ahead and get started. So these are online scams, primarily online scams, or at least they originate online. So let me dive in here. All right. It may surprise you to know that in 2020, the FBI received 800,000 reports of internet-based crimes, totaling more than $4 billion in lost assets, usually in the form of credit card fraud, bank account transfers, things like that. But that's a lot of money. That is a lot of money that is going to criminals. And the problem is they're getting smarter and they're getting bolder. It is very easy for these criminals who have all of this potential. You know, it's a shame that they can't take their smarts and their ability to use computers and use them for the betterment of humanity. Instead, they use them for one of the oldest professions in the world, and that is thievery, stealing. But they can hide out in many countries that, quite frankly, just don't give a damn. They turn a blind eye to it. These ransomware gangs that are emanating out of Russia. Well, Russia says that they are going to crack down on them and help the United States out and other countries around the world. But these gangs, these ransomware gangs, are bringing a lot of money into Russia. It is a great export or import, however you might describe it. So these thieves are getting smarter and bolder, and it doesn't help that there are states around the world that are willing to turn a blind eye to them. And as you might imagine, older citizens continue to be the biggest victims of these crimes. Now, I'm going to let you decide what the term older means. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. But suffice to say, we are seeing our older family and friends and neighbors taken advantage of more often than not. It is becoming increasingly difficult to distinguish the scams from a legitimate message or offer, particularly if it comes as an email. I'm sure you have seen some of these emails, and they're very sophisticated. They look legitimate, right? You know, I get a Cox from Cox internet. You know, I have internet and it's through Cox Communications. I get an email from them and it looks totally legitimate. But there's always something in there that doesn't look quite right. So we're going to talk about that here in just a little bit. But you've got to be really on your guard. So let's talk about some of these scams that you should be paying attention to right now. And as always, if you've got a question, you want to make a comment, please put it down in the Q&A box, or you can put it in the chat. Here's a really new one. And this one recently happened to both Victoria and me, the concert ticket scam. So this is literally a screenshot that we received in an email, or it's a screenshot from an email that we received. And it says, congratulations on participating in the Justin Bieber Justice World Tour. Your e-tickets are ready for download. Congratulations. You're going to go see the Bieber. The problem is neither Victoria or I really care about Justin Bieber, and we certainly did not buy a ticket to go see him in the section floor G, row C, seat 11 in Las Vegas. However, the email that came to us looked really legitimate. And you know what? It even went a step further. And I give the criminals credit for this. This is a scam, by the way. Okay. It makes it look like, hey, here's your ticket. And then you start thinking to yourself, wow, did I buy a ticket? I don't remember buying a ticket to Justin Bieber. I don't even recall that I like Justin Bieber. But hey, if I've got a free ticket, let's go see him. But at the very bottom, it said, be careful. There are many scams and many lookalikes out there. I mean, how blatant can you get? They were calling out the fact that there are scams out there when they're trying to scam me. I researched this. I went online to see, is this a scam? The Justin Bieber, you can go Google it right now. The Justin Bieber ticket scam is a real thing. And ultimately it comes down to common sense. If you didn't buy a ticket to see Justin Bieber, chances are this is not legitimate. But people will click on the links that are in there. And then of course that takes you down the rabbit hole. They could load ransomware on your computer. There could be spyware. I don't know what it is, but I immediately realized that this is not legitimate. And I did my research first, and sure enough, this is a scam. So if you get an email like this purporting that you have a concert ticket waiting for you, you might want to check that out. And the first thing you might want to do is ask yourself, do I even really care about this concert? If not, chances are you didn't buy the ticket. All right, here's another one. Now, this is one that's this comes from the tried and true traditional scam, but it always bears repeating this, the Social Security scam. So you get a phone call or an email claiming that your Social Security benefits are going to be suspended or garnished due to some legal situation. And if you don't rectify this immediately, if you don't pay some penalty, if you don't pay some fee, we're going to terminate your Social Security benefits. And if they leave a message or they send an email, they say, you need to call us immediately because time is of the essence and your entire world is going to fall apart if you don't call right now. And it might even look like a local number. I'm sure that you have seen recently, you'll get a phone call on your cell phone, right? And it looks like it's a local number, right? And if you're in Oklahoma City, it's a 405. If you're in the Dallas area, it might say 817, whatever. It looks like a local number. It looks like a local call from a legitimate number. You don't quite recognize it, but you think, well, it's a local call. Maybe it's a business, call or just somebody. This is called spoofing. There are criminals out there who have found a way to hijack real legitimate phone numbers and use them to place calls to you, making it look like it's coming from a legitimate number to increase the likelihood that you will call or pick up the phone. And then, of course, when you pick up the phone, they tell you this. Here's the thing about this scam, and this goes for the IRS as well. The Social Security Administration, the Internal Revenue Service will never call to threaten you with arrest, benefit reductions, additional penalties if you don't immediately pay some kind of fee or penalty. That is not how they operate. They're going to send you a letter. If you owe money, if there's some legal judgment, something that is required of you, you're not going to get a phone call from the Social Security Administration or the IRS. They're not going to send somebody to the door. You're going to get a letter first. Now, it is very possible that an IRS agent could show up at your door at some point to conduct an audit or ask questions, but they're not just going to show up unannounced. You're going to get a letter ahead of time saying, we are going to be sending somebody to you to ask questions about this. If you are concerned that you have received some kind of phony email or text message or voice message or even a letter from Social Security, you can actually go to the Social Security's website and they have a portal where you can report fraudulent contacts. And there's a huge, so the Office of the Inspector General of the Social Security Administration collects all these. And then as they see plenty of them come across, they send out notices that be aware of this scam. But there's a great website called Is That Call From Us? And it's from the Social Security Administration, and it tells you, we will never contact you this way, or this way. It's always going to be like this. So be aware of Social Security scams. especially if you are not yet taking Social Security benefits and you get a call saying, we're going to turn off your Social Security benefits. That's a pretty good sign that it's a scam if you're not even taking Social Security, right? But they scare people. It scares people. But just understand, little common sense goes a long way. First, assume that it's a scam, okay? Because they're not going to call you. Here's one that I've started seeing more and more. It's called the push payment scam. So somewhere down the line, a criminal hacks your bank account or somehow gets a hold of your personal information. And now they are able to monitor your purchases. So if you go on and you put in a credit card to make a deposit on something, maybe you're going to make a deposit on a hotel in Europe or wherever you're going to travel, or you put a deposit down on a new vehicle, or I don't know. Okay. Or you use your credit card or you use your debit card. They now have your information. They're monitoring your accounts to see when you've made a new purchase. Instantly, they give you a phone call or they send you an email posing as the representative from Company X. Hey, Mr. Johnson, we saw that you just made a brand new purchase. We can't wait to see you for your reservation in Tahiti next year. We saw that you already made the deposit. Here's where you can go ahead. Would you like to make the rest of your payment now? We can actually give you a discount. Why don't you go ahead and send your payment to here? We'll give you a 10% discount. Send it to this account, all that stuff. Problem is they are directing you to send it to a fraudulent address or some fraudulent place. You believe it's legitimate because you just made the deposit. What you didn't know was that a criminal was monitoring what you were doing. Never, ever trust a call from a retailer responding immediately to a purchase that you've just made online, especially if you're not expecting it. Most online retailers, when you make a reservation, you purchase something, you hold it, whatever, they don't call you immediately. I mean, they may call you a few days later with some follow-up information, but even if they do, my advice would be hang up, say, well, thank you so much for the call. I tell you what, I'm gonna hang up here and I'm gonna call you guys right back to verify. Oh, well, let me give you the number. No, I've got the number. I can look it up. Thank you. You call the number back. If the company answers, probably all right. If it goes to Jack's Meat Market or wherever, I don't know, probably not a legitimate phone call, right? So be aware of the push payment scam, especially when you're going online to make new purchases, because this is a big one that we're seeing a lot of. All right. And oops, let me go back. Here is one that it's growing. This is actually the fastest growing form of identity theft in the United States right now, and it's one of the fastest also around the world. But this one is really making a lot of headway here in the United States. It's called the synthetic identity scam, and this one's really hard. And remember, I said the criminals, they're getting more and more sophisticated. They're getting smarter. I mean, contrary to what we might think about a bunch of stupid guys or stupid people sitting in a basement somewhere, doing all this stuff, these are pretty smart people. I mean, you got to be smart to figure out how to do this stuff. So it takes brains. They're just using it for nefarious purposes. So here's what happens. A criminal gets a hold of some of your real information, your address, perhaps a phone number. But then to avoid any detection, they actually make up a fake name. All right. So we're using some real information with some not real information. All right. So what do? They make up John Doe and they go in and they use your address, your phone number. And when they go in for like a preliminary scan, the company is just checking to see, is this a legitimate address, whatever. They don't know. They can't tell that John Doe doesn't really exist or doesn't even really live there. They're simply looking for a legitimate address or telephone number, something like that. Once the criminal passes that initial screen, that is when the fun begins. They go in and they use now this new account. So they set up account. It doesn't take a lot of information to set up a new account. It really doesn't. All right. With various websites, things like that. Often it's free to set up an account. All you need is an email address and a name, and you can set up an account. But the company has no idea. So if it all seems legitimate to the company, and once the account is open, that's when the criminal will use that account with your personal information, not your name, but your personal information attached to the account to make purchases. Now, technically, there is no victim because the name of the victim is false. It's an imaginary person. It doesn't exist. But obviously, purchases that are tied to your address, to your phone number, God forbid your social security number, those things can then get reported on your credit report. And as I said, this is the fastest growing form of identity theft in the United States. So I'm going to take a quick break for just a moment because we do have a little bit of time. We've got about 15 minutes. And I am going to share with you some ways to protect yourself, but I'd like to ask you right now to share in the chat or in the Q&A or the chat or the Q&A. What are some scams that you have seen recently? What are some things that you have been suspicious of and you researched them and found out later, yeah, this is a scam? Because if you have seen it, chances are other people have seen it, but maybe they haven't seen it. This is a great forum to share scams. I've given you a few. Have you been a victim? Have you experienced one of these scams? And if so, tell us about it. Just put a quick description in the Q&A or the chat, because I'd like to share it with the rest of the group here. Suffice to say, you've got to be very careful when you're out there using your personal information. Looks like we do have somebody here put something in. Mike says, what about home title theft that we hear about on the radio? That can happen too. Again, it's just one of those things. That's why, it's always a good idea to periodically check, check the provenance of your title. If you haven't had, maybe the title when you bought your home, maybe it hasn't been, maybe the abstract isn't really up to date. Maybe it's passed through a lot of hands by the time it got to you. It's very possible that somewhere down the line, somebody fraudulently claimed that title and now you really don't own the property. So that's why sometimes it's a good idea, pay the money, go to a title company and say, hey, I'd like to rework up my abstract on my piece of property. Okay. It's also a good idea, and we're going to talk about it here. Oftentimes when you're dealing with titles, sometimes creditors are involved. Well, if creditors are involved, someone's trying to open up an account or get a line of credit based on some piece of property that you own, well, then chances are, if they've got your personal information, then they've tried to run your credit. So check your credit report. And I'm going to show you how to do that here free in just a moment. But yeah, Mike, I've heard about that one too. I haven't run across it personally, and I've not yet actually talked to any clients or met with any clients. Maybe you have, Mike. Have you seen that yourself? I'm curious. Let's see. We do have another question that's come up here. Mary says, texts from Amazon and other legitimate companies with a link to click on. I just swipe and delete. Yes, Mary, you're doing exactly what you should be doing. Just get rid of it. If it's not a purchase that you remember making, just get rid of it. Go. Let it be gone. Just get rid of it. You don't want to click those links. Any message that you're not expecting should be gone. And then later on, if you want, you can follow up to see, hey, what is this? And of course, if you're ever concerned about a charge or anything that comes on your credit card, you can always call and dispute the charges. Okay, so those are good ones. So Mike mentioned title fraud on real estate. I suppose there could even be title fraud on a vehicle, anything that has a title on it. And then Mary mentioned texts from Amazon and other legitimate retailers with a link to click. Anybody else have any other frauds that they've run across? Any scams that you have seen that look really legitimate and you were really tempted to click that or call the number, but at the last minute you're like, this doesn't seem real? Anybody else have anything that they would like to share? Let's see here. Oh, okay. Wendy. Okay, Wendy says, I received an email saying order number, blah, 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 payment is confirmed. It was a charge of over $500 for a graphics card on a computer. Their address was 4562. Okay. This is when I'm sure Wendy knew that this probably isn't legitimate. Here's the address: 4562 Hazy Panda Limits, Chair Crossing, Kentucky. Right. There is no such place. My card company confirmed my card was not charged. There you go. They're just phishing. That's called a phishing spoof, or well, not a phishing scam. A spoof is when somebody uses a legitimate phone number to call you and try to get you to answer. Phishing is when somebody has your email address, but they're just trying to get you to bite. They're casting that lure out there and they're trying to get you to bite. Okay. So I'm glad you did not bite, Wendy. Congratulations. You know what? This actually happened to me not that long ago too. I have a Capital One credit card and I use my credit card and I pay it off every month, but I use it for the airline miles because my wife and I use those miles to travel from time to time. Well, one day I got an email that said, thank you for calling Capital One customer service today. Your profile change has been completed. Problem was, I didn't call Capital One customer support. I didn't change my customer profile. So the first thing I did was I went online to look at my account. I didn't see any fraudulent charges there. I didn't see anything out of the ordinary. Then I went to my personal information. You're not going to believe this, Wendy, but somebody changed my address and they changed it to Chair Crossing, Virginia. So when I saw that, that's partly why I laughed. But I really like the street Hazy Panda Limits. That's a really cool street name. I wish I lived on Hazy Panda Limits Drive or whatever. Anyway, so they had changed my city to Virginia, which I found out it didn't exist either. So I had to call Capital One and say, I did not call. I did not make a change to that. Would you please cancel that account number and issue me a new card with a new account number? Yeah, she says, must be a popular town name. Yeah, I mean, apparently let's all move to Chair Crossing wherever. Hazy Panda Limits in Chair Crossing. All right. So thank you very much for sharing those. If you've got a scam or something like that that you would like to share with the group, please do so. But now what I want to do is spend a little bit of time giving you some simple things that you can do to protect yourself. Some of this ranges from common sense behaviors to actual tasks that you can perform to protect yourself. Okay, so the very first thing I would like to say to you is this, and I know this is going to sound very cynical. It's going to sound paranoid, but assume everything is a scam until you prove it isn't. Just assume everyone's out to get you. I don't like living that way either, but the price of protecting yourself is vigilance. And part of that vigilance is just assuming that everything is out to get you. Or at the very least, if you're not expecting something, when something happens that you don't expect, assume it is fake until you can prove to your satisfaction that it is not. You call the company to see if it's legitimate. Okay, you check for a website to see if that company even exists. And even if it does exist, are they in the business that they say? So you want to take some time to think before clicking on anything. I mean, I don't know, I feel kind of funny saying this, but does it really seem reasonable to you that a Nigerian prince out of nowhere is going to offer you $10 million if you just send him $10,000 so he can get a ticket to come to this country? Use your mind, use your brain. Okay. Obviously that, but that's just a simple one. Some of the other ones, a little bit harder. Research names of companies in fishy emails. So check this out. Here's another one that Victoria and I got. We got an email saying that we had been involved in a hit and run accident and that the insurance company was going to file a lawsuit against us for the damages on the vehicle. And we've got pictures. We've got pictures. Click this link to see the pictures of what you did. You know what you did. All you got to do is click the link and you can see what you did, you naughty person. And guess what? There was a name of an insurance company. First thing I do, I Google up that insurance company. Guess what? It's a real company. It's a real live company. The name was legitimate. Problem is, it was a law firm, not an insurance company. See? You got to check these things out. You know what Victoria did? She took the next step. She actually called the company. There was a phone number there on their website. We did not call the number that was in the email. We called the number on the website of the law firm, verified you're a law firm. Okay. And then we informed them there's a fraudulent email going out right now with your name on it, claiming to be an insurance company, and that we're going to sue a bunch of people. So don't click the link. Research the names of the companies. If it's real, call them to verify. Is there a website? Are they even in the business that the email claims that they're in? Shred anything with your name or personal information on it. A shredder down at Best Buy probably costs you 30 to 50 bucks, or Office Depot, something like that. Okay. Identity theft can cost you tens, hundreds of thousands. Shredder, identity theft. Don't throw your personal statements, mail, anything in the trash. Shred it first. When I get my mail at home and I go through it and I separate the junk from the stuff I need to pay attention to, if it doesn't have any of my personal information on it, I throw it in the recycle bin. Okay. Anything that has like a credit card offer, what do? At the top of the page, most of it is just a bunch of junk, but at the top of the page, they put your name and address and city, state, and zip. That's personal information. I tear that part off. I stick it in the shred pile. Everything else gets recycled. That's how I do it. That's how we do it in our house. Shred everything, or burn it. If you got a fireplace, burn it. Don't use the same password for every website. And please, for the love of God, don't make your password 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's not a good password. It's a pretty easy one to guess, right? If you are looking to really lock up and protect your passwords, is a really great tool you can actually download as an extension on Google Chrome. If you use Google Chrome as your Internet Explorer, you can download what's called LastPass. LastPass embeds itself into your Google Chrome internet browser, okay? And anytime you go to a website that requires a username and password, usually that username and password, what do? You store it inside the browser, right? So that way it's always there every time you log back in. You don't have to remember it, right? Simple, it's great. Most people do that. It's also an easy way to get all your username and passwords stolen. LastPass saves your username and passwords in a separate encrypted space. It will populate all the sites that you log into, but your username and password are not going into the online site directly on the site. It's kind of off, okay? And it's sending like a mirror image to it. I don't know exactly how it works. All I know is that's what I use. And anytime I go onto a new site and I have to set up a new account, a little message pops up. Would you like to add this username and password to LastPass? I click yes. And now I get help remembering my username and passwords, but I am not storing them on my internet browser. Okay, so check out LastPass. Really cool tool. And guess what? It's a free service. You can get a free account. You can get a paid account too, but you don't need one. I have the free account. Here's another one. If you get an email, you want to be wary of any spelling or grammatical errors in the emails. You know, you get an email. Hello, good sir. We're going to send to you the sum of 3 million US American dollars. Please be kind to send to Bank of, you see what I'm saying? It reads like, a kindergartner wrote it. Clearly someone who English is not their primary language. Okay. And English may not be your first language either, but since most of us are English speaking, that's the example I'm using here. But even if Spanish is your first language, or Hindi or whatever, check for spelling and grammatical errors. Look for strange phrases that native speakers of your language don't tend to use. Verify that any area codes and the phone numbers match the area code of the country or the world that the message claims to come from. It's a lot of extra steps, I know, but you can Google this stuff. You can check stuff out pretty quickly. I've gotten pretty good at it, okay? And I'm not exactly the most computer savvy guy. All right, here's another one. Check annualcreditreport.com. Annualcreditreport.com is the only website that is mandated by the federal government that allows you to pull a copy of your credit report free of charge once every 12 months from each of the 3 credit reporting bureaus, TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. So you can go on every 12 months and get a free copy of your credit report to check to see, is there any suspicious activity? The way I do it is this. The first quarter of the year, I'll go and do TransUnion. The second quarter of the year, I'll go do Equifax. Maybe I'll take a break for the third quarter. And then in the fourth quarter of the year, I'll do Experian. That way, I'm checking all throughout the year to see, is my credit still looking good? And then I do it all over again the next year. Again, annualcreditreport.com is the only website that is mandated by federal law to do this. Now, if you want a copy of your credit score, you're going to have to pay for that. But your credit report, you can get for free. You can also place a fraud alert. So there are 2 types of alerts that you can set on your credit. The first is a fraud alert. Now, a fraud alert is less severe. This is going to stay on your record for 7 years. So let's say that you've been the victim of identity theft, and you want to let everybody else out there know, I've been a victim. I've got a fraud alert on my account. For the next 7 years, anytime a creditor wants to open up, send you a credit card offer or a bank loan offer or whatever, they have to run your credit to be able to do that. Okay. Well, in order to do that, they're going to have to verify your identity prior to any purchase, prior to setting up any account, things like that. All right. Now, there's an even stricter version. It's called a credit freeze. This is what I did on my credit when I got that notification from Capital One that somebody had changed my address. I freaked out, but I stayed level-headed enough to call credit or Capital One, terminate that card, get a new account, and then I instantly went to each of the credit reporting bureaus and I put a credit freeze on my credit and my wife's credit. What this does is it completely locks out any creditor from opening up a new account in your name. A home loan, a car loan, a new credit card. Until you lift the freeze, no one is going to offer you a credit card. You're not going to get it. So I'll tell you, one byproduct of this is that it really cut down on the junk mail I got from all the credit card companies offering me their credit card because they couldn't run my credit. They couldn't offer it to me because my credit had a freeze on it. I still have the freeze on there. I have 2 credit cards, one for personal, one for business, and that's it. I pay them off every month. Other than that, I have 0 need for credit. I don't. Same with my wife, and she only has 1 credit card. So those are some things that you can do to protect yourself. I encourage you to take those steps. And if you have any questions, if you like some more insights into that, we encourage you to reach out to us. If you've got more questions, trust me, regardless of what kind of financial question you have, we've heard it all, we've seen it all. And if you've got a question, we can help. If you just want to bounce an idea off of us, we love to solve your problems. Okay. So give us a call at 405-348-0909. You see our 800 number there if you're calling from outside of the Oklahoma City area. Or you can also email your questions to office@chappelwood.com. And we would be happy to help you if you want to schedule an appointment or if you just have some questions. I don't see any more questions for today. So I want to thank you all for being on the Wednesday Lunchtime Drive Through for today. Hope that you have a wonderful rest of your week. Stay safe, stay prosperous, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.